As Table Mountain has always stood sentinel, Killarney International Raceway outside Cape Town first saw action in 1947. 71 years later, in 2019, it's the scene of the third round of the Global Touring Car Championship. Hello everyone, Arnold Gantz here, and a scintillating 2 races ahead for us in round 3 of South Africa's premier circuit racing formula. The formula made its 2019 debut at the Gazoo Raceway in Port Shepstone, KwaZulu-Natal, and the racing got off to an action-packed start as Simon Moss dominated proceedings to get his season off to a perfect start aboard his Terry Moss Racing Audi Sport A3. At Swartkops in round 2, it was more of the same, and Moss leads the championship log.
I'm currently leading the GTC Championship. Started the season off very well, been dominant in qualifying in all the sessions that I've competed in. Every race I've competed in, I've won, that I've finished. And I've got a good car under me this weekend. A few technical issues, we didn't get out for qualifying. Still battling to get the car together for the race, about an hour and a half to go. And then we're on the track, so hopefully we can find the issue, and got no doubt we've got it in us to come from the back and take the victory. We've got all the speed under us, so let's see what happens, and let's hold thumbs.
As it was, Chop Sepuka would hold more than just his thumbs. For the Manufacturers' Championship pace setters Volkswagen, things have been going swimmingly, although without a win, but team principal Mike ROWE was one happy camper at the beginning of round 3 in the Cape of Good Hope.
Look, I think we've had a solid start to the season. So we haven't won races yet, but we've scored lots of points. So that leaves us in the lead of the Manufacturers' Championship for both classes, which is really great for the brand. So we're very happy about that. For this weekend's plan is to continue on that track and keep scoring. The Manufacturers' Championship is important to Volkswagen, as is the Drivers' Championship. So yeah, I think we're in good space at the moment. So hopefully this weekend will be good to us and we can score some good points.
So it was indeed thumbs up for the German motoring giant. Saturday morning's qualifying was a dogfight, except for Moss. The session saw Robert Volk, fresh from his impressive showing at the Jaguar Samola Hill Climb, where he showed some real speed, and the Chemical Logistics WCT Engineering BMW take pole, continuing the strong form he showed during Friday's practice sessions. Local man and favourite Johan Fourie was surprisingly back on the 4th row, but on home soil he's always tough. Volk has had a frustrating start to the season. Although the big Dunlop pole position check would certainly have helped ease the pain a little.
We've had a tough year so far. Got the car really late and had 2 frustrating rounds with electrical issues. Seemed to get it right at Swartkops, but yeah, unfortunately didn't finish those into decent results. But we've had a strong weekend thus far, so great to be on pole, and looking forward to hopefully getting the first race win and seeing what we can do in the reverse grid.
As the Cape Townians got a chance to experience the cars, the grid and the drivers up close before the off, championship leader Brad Liebenberg and the GTC 2s has had a superb start to his season.
So far I've had a good run this year. I've actually won 4 out of 4, so Cape Town looking good again for another 2 out of 2, so hopefully we can make it 6 out of 6 and carry on the perfect run for the rest of the year. I'm looking forward to the race day. There's a nice bit of fans here, and I love Cape Town because everyone here is so enthusiastic about racing.
And they certainly were, as the big I's and oohs and ahs attested, not to mention the Dunlop lasses who added a certain sparkle. Sorry, make that smooch to the occasion. Walk in the pole sitters position, while Daniel ROWE and Keegan Masters were right on his tail in their Volkswagen Motorsport Jetters, ahead of the man with all the local knowledge, Johan Fourie, in the EPS Racing BMW. Michael van Rooyen had a difficult day throughout Friday in his GA300 Racing South Africa Toyota Corolla and lined up in 5th place, while Sepuka was 6th, but not for long. Moss right at the back and in a slight spot of bother. In the GTC 2 class, Liebenberg was 4 for 4, while Adrian Wood had it all to do. Charles Smallberger in his Golf was next, and Lee Thompson in the nicely turned out Ford was 4th. Mandla Mdakani has been improving all season long, while Paul Hill's Golf is also starting to purr along very nicely. So the Audi team had problems with championship leader Moss's car suffering a terminal failure that prevented him from making it out for qualifying at all. That's when teammate Chop Sepuka made the extraordinary offer to hand over the keys to his race car, thus giving Moss a fighting chance to pick up valuable championship points. A rolling start as always. So let's go racing as the 13 cars lined up on this tight little grid at the Killarney Raceway. Volk, ROWE, Keegan, Masters and veteran Fourie. Moss right at the back, 12 laps ahead. So the race is on into Hole's Hook and the tightish left-hander, Volk right on top of it, but the Jetta looking to squeeze him right on the curb while Fourie went the high road. He did not have much of a choice really, as wide as they can and then some as Fourie does some off-roading early on. The tyres didn't like that, nor did the bodywork in car now with Fourie looking, believe it or not, for a 12th national championship across all formats in his beautifully turned out EPS Courier Services BMW. But up sneaked Moss. Fourie tries to close the door and a little twitch from the Audi and Fourie stares him down. That's what the Mother City crowd came to see, paint swapping action as early as the first lap. So the order: Volk, Daniel Rowe, Van Rooyen, Fourie and Moss. In car now with Rowe and his Jetta, and Volk seems to have the drop on him on the straights, but under braking the gap closes again. The order still exactly the same and Fourie having to work hard to keep the Beamer going with some body parts missing. Moss in Chop Sapuka's car probably still getting used to the slightly different feel. Still, BMW, then the Jetta 2-litre, the Toyota, another BMW and then the Audi, and after lap 1 as they flash past the pits with another 11 to go, this was building nicely. 32-year-old Robert Volk has been racing since the age of 9, winning 9 single-seater championships in Formula Ford and Formula Volkswagen in his 23-year-long racing career and setting a blistering pace up front. Brad Liebenberg, in that aggressive blue and white advanced driving livery of the Golf GTI, was flying along but only had to check his rearview mirror to know that he had no chance of making any mistakes and not paying the price for it. Lap 2 was the quickest of all of them for Volk and Rowe as they hit 155 km an hour down the straight and into the lazy right-hander, but the two of them had built a very handy lead over the other 3 contenders on a beautiful sunny day in Cape Town. But then, as there always is, there was drama for the Manufacturers' Championship leaders as Keegan Masters was forced to call it a day. Now the pressure was on for the VW Mackies to pull a rabbit out of the hat for race 2 for the young man on his debut GTC season. Back out on track, Moss now all over Fourie like a rash, but could not find nor manufacture a way past, or could he? Terry's pride and joy did indeed, but now Fourie was the chaser, and on his home turf he is one tough racer. The GTC 2 battle, and here it was still Liebenberg, then Adrian Wood in the Kyocera Golf GTI, with Smallberger in his Universal Healthcare Golf GTI. So VW everywhere you look up front right now in the GTC 2s. Lee Thompson was next with Mandlam Dekani, Paul Hill and Bob Neal battling a little at the back. The gap was perceptibly growing between the rest of the field and the main protagonists, Volk and Rowe, with Van Rooyen the meat in the sandwich, with a little daylight to spare between himself and Moss, and Fourie pushing him as hard as he could, but losing ground to Moss, who was certainly using the A3 that he got at a second's notice from the ultimate T-man Chop Sapuka. Killarney is a tricky circuit which measures just over 3.2 k's long and requires deft skill and touch, with very few overtaking areas in which the drivers can make a move stick. Masters on the way back out there, hoping to log a finish so that he could start at the front of the grid, as it's always a reverse grid for the second race. Clever move. Talking moves, here was the move of the race thus far as Rowe saw a gap and wriggled in there without a second invitation, almost swapping paint with each other. A twitch from Volk, which probably just gave him more work to do. Into the home straight, and Rowe on the outside line, braking very late in a pure drag race down past the pits. Superb maneuver from the man who lists the racetrack as one of his favourites, together with East London. And that runoff area was going to need some attention, the way the boys used that up on every single pass, particularly Moss, and the race 1 winner at Swartkops Fourie was using all the available space to slingshot it back into the left-hand turn of the corner. Masters was limping around hoping to just get it to the line while the high-speed train continued to lap Killarney at about 1 minute and 15 seconds at the front. With the last laps to negotiate, it was Rowe, Volk losing ground to him, then Van Rooyen in his debut season 2 in the Toyota. Moss just not quite as fast as in his own car, with Fourie now uncharacteristically losing some real estate to the top 4 ahead of him. Hold on tight as we go to the races with young Rowe. The race was now hotting up for Van Rooyen. The man from Rustenburg is in his 16th year of racing and now needed all that experience to hold off Moss, who was looking for a way past after starting last on the grid. It was inevitable. And coming into the home straight, Moss just took the inside line and held it on the run down. Squeezed it, if you like, and into turn 1, Hole's Hook, and thus held off Van Rooyen, but had to use all of his considerable skills to do so. That's a brave move, as he had to be late on the braking as well. And the 3-time national karting champion could only grit his teeth as Moss went by and into 3rd. But as so often happens, now Moss was the hunted, and Van Rooyen could now plan a counter-attack. No bets placed yet. The GTC 2 class, and here there was a procession as Liebenberg just picked up where he left off from the Gazoo Raceway, and Swartkops in the front and enjoying himself. As for Moss and Van Rooyen, this was one huge scrap, and the Rustenburg man in the Toyota Gazoo Racing Corolla was going to give it gas. Pressure, pressure, and more pressure as Moss has to close the door and outwork the flying Van Rooyen. Close, but no cigar. Van Rooyen going at it hammer and tongs, holding that hard inside line. And then that little twitch there, using the revs to the max and almost beyond, but Moss was holding on for dear life. At the sharp end of the field, ROWE had a little bit of breathing space ahead of Volk, but not much. No gaps to make even the tiniest mistakes, in fact. In car now with Michael Van Rooyen in the Toyota Gazoo racing car, and this is real hold on by the seat of your pants stuff. Late in the race now, and on lap 12, ROWE is going to encounter some slower traffic, and Volk could be hoping that this would get him closer to the #1 spot again. Ahead of ROWE, it was Lee Thompson's Delman Mining Ford Focus ST that appeared, and as you know by now, Killarney is a tight circuit with very little space to overtake. The timing was good for ROWE, and he eventually steamed by, but now there could be a hold-up for Volk. How would it all pan out? And just look at the difference in speed here as Thompson gets left behind in the dust, almost like he's looking for parking. More of the slower traffic to negotiate. But again, not much of a hold-up and no damage done. In car now with ROWE, and his speed was impressive in race 1, past one more of the GTC 2s and piling it on. Inevitably, the slightly smaller configuration cars were going to get in the way, and here it was ROWE who got stuck behind Adrian Wood in his Golf. Again, you only need to lose 2 seconds like this, and the rest of the field gather their attacking prowess again as they sniff a chance to get close. Luckily for the race leader Wood, they let him go, and he was through the turn and off again. With clear tarmac in front of him now, all he had to do was put the icing and the cherry on the cake of the race 1 as he was about to grab his first win of the 2019 season. Coming into Malmesbury corner, into 4th gear, through the right-hander, the sweep, and on the way to the finish straight, absolutely nails it. On the other side of that coin, Brad Liebenberg was looking for win number 5 as ROWE just absolutely blasted by him. And then his teammate Masters, who was still limping along, hoping to nurse it to the pole position in race 2. And indeed, it was a joyful Daniel ROWE who took race 1 at the Killarney Raceway. It also happened to be his first of the 2019 season, so the VW team cement their lead at the top of the manufacturer's battle as well, with a fine drive from ROWE, who had 2.5 seconds to spare over Volk in second, with Moss producing a superb drive from the back to clinch the 3rd step on the podium. Liebenberg took 5 as he made it another win in the GTC 2's 5 in a row. He was followed hard by Adrian Wood and Charles Smallberger in the other Golf. It was a superb first W for young ROWE.
My start was great. I just piled in behind Robbie because I saw I wasn't going to be able to run it around his outside. And yeah, I braked late enough into 1 to cover him. And from there, I just tried to get my head down and push, I just focused on my race. I expected a comeback from him because I used my push to passes quite early to try and get away. And I don't think his push to passes were enough to get him close enough. So we finally got a win this year. And that's our first one of many this year, and I'm looking forward.
Now, the mechanics, technicians, and to a certain extent the drivers had their work cut out for them as they had to get the vehicles ready to rock and roll in race 2. And with the clock ticking down at the Extreme Festival, the pressure was truly on. Race 2 of round 3 of the 2019 GTC Championship from Killarney in the camp of Good Hope comes at you right after this. Killarney International Raceway, scene of some fine and famous racing since 1947, was ready for more of the same, as the final touches for setup was being completed in the pits for race 2 of the 2019 GTC series. The second race is a reverse order start on the grid, really a matter of first shall be last and last shall be first, as race 1's winner starts at the back. This has led to some breathtaking racing, and it gives other racers a chance to get away cleanly and do some front running. The rolling start and Masters, after nosing it all the way around, got his pole position to start off with, and this would have fooled team principal Mike Rowe with a great amount of glee, what with the first 2019 race win, and now his youngest charge in the right place at the right time. Heading for turn 1 and Hole's Hook, and this is one of the byproducts of the reverse order start. Everyone is on everyone else's back bumper. It's a real bun fight out there. Unfree getting just a little bit out of shape, but getting the control back rather rapidly. The GTC 2s going out ploughing shears as they went farming, but luckily no long-term damage done except for a few heart rates early on. On race 2, one of our onboard cameras ended up with Free, and he's always good value, but then again, so is Simon Moss right behind him. Single file, and all 5 of the men who made the running in race 1 were back into it. Masters, Free, Moss, Van Rooyen, and then Volk, who just did not have the pace to stay with race 1 winner Rowe, who himself had a rather slowish start in race 2, but was gallantly closing the gap. Just watch the impatience boiling over from here, or almost boiling over from Moss. I just want a way past, he seemed to be saying. And angling he was, left and right as he comes down to Cape Town corner, the inside line, past the pits, and then to try and use his power to try and outdrag Fourie and the rest of the lads. Clearly the pit crew had got Sepuka's car set up much better for Simon in race 2. Moss straight up there into second, and all over Masters' taillights immediately. So here's a sum to figure out. Does 4 cars go into space designed for 2? No. Okay, if you force it, this is what happens then. A huge spill from the GTC 2s, and the red flags to halt the race come out immediately. So let's have another look at that WWE move in vehicles, with Adrian Wood just getting a wrap from the back, fishtailing and then touching Lee Thompson's forward, which got him airborne, while Brad Liebenberg's race came to a very premature end in the tyre barriers as a result.
Brad and Lee were having a bit of a ding-dong the whole opening lap. Coming down the run, they were both defending. I went to the line on the outside, got a good run on them. And then suddenly I got a hard tag from my left rear of the vehicle, and then from there it was just carnage everywhere.
Carnage was the word. The math just didn't make sense.
So we were going for 3 abreast to turn 1, because the 4th guy snuck his way around the outside as well. He squeezed Brad Limburg into me, and we started bouncing off each other, and we just couldn't slow down for the corner.
And just listen to the classic understatement here from championship leader Liebenberg.
We came into the last turn, and the front 2 had a little bit of a squabble going in. I managed to get the run on them, then got a little bit of a door slip down the main straight, and unfortunately 4 into 1 don't go, and I tried to get out of it, but it was a little bit too late.
You get the idea that the boys enjoy those every once in a while, hey? Whatever the case may be, Daniel Rowe had a big problem on the starting grid.
Looks like the injector's stuck open. So that's a pity. Just a bit irritated with the start. Robbie braked early going into the first corner, so I ran around the outside. I was right on the edge.
And right on the edge it would be, as the race was brought down to only 10 laps due to the amount of time it took to sort out the carnage. Once more, a rolling start while the GTC 2 field was decimated with that spectacular prang. Everyone holding thumbs that the racing would be without interruption. Take 2. This time, a big move from Moss on the outside, but how effective would that be with turn 2 and 3 at opposite ends of the scale? Let's see. In car with Wood, who escaped unharmed from the middle of the melee, but again some nervous driving there and some dust and dirt kicked up, which cannot help the tyres a lot at all. Up front, Robbie Volk was just getting off the pace and trying his level best to get back on even terms, but seemed to be falling off the back, with Masters, Moss, Fourie and Van Rooyen holding station. Rowe limping around just trying to collect any and all points that he possibly still could in his stricken car. Still, the second jetter was doing a fine job, but championship leader Simon Moss was in the pound seats and trying to sum up and calculate what his best passing options would be. He'd not spent a lot of time behind Masters, so he needed the time to make his plans after watching the lines the youngster took. Fourie hard at work and under pressure. This certainly one of the more spectacular byproducts of the reverse starting order. It's bunched and very, very tight. making their way into the straight. And a very sneaky move there by Moss, up the inside and in just the right place, using all the power the Audi A3 can produce, and the 27-year-old into the lead for the first time in round 3 at Killarney, with a little nudge from Masters for his troubles into the back straight, and still Masters just would not back down. Superb racing from the youngster. But Moss is an old hand, and now he knew that he needed to control things at the front. Keep in mind, he was in teammate Chop Sepuka's car, but clearly the setup was definitely more to his liking in race 2. The order: Audi, VW, Jetta, BMW, Toyota and Volkswagen having done a great job of closing the gap once more. The GTC 2's battle, all it be a slightly reduced field, and now it was Charles Smallberger and Mandla Mdekani who were tying one on. The Mini was having on-the-road modifications done, but probably not on purpose. Up front, there was nothing to separate the top 3, while Van Rooyen in the Gazoo Corolla and Vonk aboard the Chemical Logistics WCT Engineering BMW were not out of the reckoning either. Moss faster in a straight line than his pursuers, and down the main straight he opened just a slight edge, but interestingly enough not able to clock lap times as fast as what Volk and ROWE did during race 1. Volk, after racing his A1 GP Ferrari to a 100th of a second loss to Andre Besaidnout at the Jaguar Simona Hill Climb a few weeks ago, this time going very wide but holding on. But in front, Moss, double winner at the Dizzy Raceway in round 1 in KZN, was without doubt pulling away, and when he's in front, he's one determined character. Since the very popular Super Touring Car Series was held in South Africa during the 90s, the country was introduced to GTC, a globally recognized racing series, back in 2016, comprising a field of 2-litre turbo-powered racing cars. Featuring a common chassis, running gear, a single ECU to control performance, control tyres, suspension and other components, the GTC Championship Series has created a very strong revival in South African circuit racing, and series director Gary Formato and his team have provided an interesting mix of all the top SA circuits to ensure that every team and every driver is tested to the max and perhaps a little beyond. In car now with Masters and riding along rather rapidly. Volk had powered by Van Rooyen and then set off in pursuit of Fourie, so it would be Beamer versus Beamer next. Sounds like a movie about a divorce, eh? These pictures confirm that Moss was saying goodbye. But the battle certainly wasn't over. A 2-man battle for first and second, and a 2-man battle too for third and fourth between the 2 BMWs. Moss maintaining his lead as they come through the kink into Dampstip, but Masters certainly not giving up by any means. In fact, through Dampstip, the Jetta looked more planted. While the battle was raging hard between Fourie and Volk, and Van Rooyen in no man's land in 5th, but still lapping at steady 1/16s. As for Moss, whose first win of the season in Port Shepstone was a go-to-woe affair, this one still needed some work, with young Masters showing that the VW pit boys did it all right this time. The gap had closed again, but it was clear that Moss had matters in hand. The penultimate lap, Moss, Masters, Volk, Fourie, and then Volk goes in too quickly and gets it completely sideways, and that's a massive blow for Fourie too, and allows Van Rooyen to close the gap between him and Volk. Oh my, how quickly things change in this formula of racing. Into the main straight, and all of a sudden from being 5th virtually all race long, the Rustenburg resident is up into 3rd. He must have been smiling from ear to ear inside the helmet of his. Fourie, on the other hand, would have been livid. Here's another look. Volk with just too much speed and gets it completely sideways. Fourie's car handling skills need to be commended as he avoided contact but lost his rear wing as it clipped that of Volk's BMW in the avoidance procedure. Strap in for the ride with Keegan Masters as he tries to make sure that Moss doesn't get too far up the road. But Moss was on a mission and away for good, it seemed, into the sweeping right-hander Cape Town corner for the last time, using the apex well and into the main straight for the last time too, as Simon Moss takes win number 4 for the season and a doff of the cap to his teammate Chop Sepuka, who gave up his ride for the good of the team. Masters did a good drive to take a solid second and keep VW on top of the manufacturer's battle. Another 2019 win for Moss in the all-power Audi. Keegan Masters had to settle for second, and third, Michael van Rooyen. As far as the GTC 2s were concerned, Charles Smallberger led most of the way, with Mdekani in second.
Yeah, I didn't have a great weekend. I didn't start off great, so I didn't have a qualifying session. So it meant I had to start race 1 from the back of the grid. The mechanics, I must just say a very big thank you to them. First of all, working till 2 in the morning to get my my car ready for qualifying, and unfortunately there was an issue with the car. Chops went and qualified, and then race 1 Chops and ended up giving me his car, which I think is one of the best sportsmanship moments I've had in my whole career. And Chops let me ride his car, I rode his car and managed to get a 3rd in race 1. Being my first time in the car, changed setup for race 2, and it was amazing. Car was a dream, and took the victory, got the championship lead. I got a nice bag of points where we thought we would get none. And after this, I think we'll get my car ready, sorted out, and there's going to be no stopping us from here.
Smallberger in Universal Healthcare Golf was understandably overjoyed with the victory.
Yeah, very good. I managed to get a win there. It was very hectic in the start. There was a big crash on the first lap, and I managed to avoid it all and come out there and come out on top. So I'm very chuffed with that.
The tale of the points, and after 3 rounds and 6 races, Moss enjoys a 12-point advantage over Keegan Masters, who is just 1 ahead of his teammate Daniel Rowe. To put it in context, only 24 points cover the top 5. In the GTC 2 category, Liebenberg went 5 for 5, and he has 18 points worth of breathing space between him and Adrian Wood, who in turn is just 8 in front of Charles Smallberger after his win in the Cape. Killarney International Raceway, due to its very nature, always delivers thrills and spills, and as you saw, round 3 of the GTC Championship was no exception. Round number 4 is on at the Aldo Scribanti Raceway in Port Elizabeth on the 15th of June. We'll see you there. I'm Arnold Gert saying thanks for watching.